Hey, everybody. We are getting ready to share this town of Fort Myers Beach hurricane meeting with you, this emergency meeting they're calling. So, as soon as they go live, we're going to turn over to their live meeting. I just watched a FEMA meeting down in Miami. And of course, they want to emphasize that this storm can still go either way. It can move a little to the left and it can move a little to the right. But he was talking about 10-foot storm surges in the Tampa area that they're getting prepared for. So do everything you can to get prepared now while the sun is still shining, and you can weather through whatever happens tomorrow night and Wednesday, it looks like. Again, the biggest issue they're talking about right now is storm surge. That's on the top of their list. So you definitely want to be preparing for that in any way you can, getting your batteries ready for your radio and everything else that you need to charge up now so that it's ready to go if you do lose power. And we're going to see what the town has in store for you guys in just a few minutes. It should be starting any minute. Also, there's a 3:00 meeting that the county board is holding, so we're going to carry that at 3:00. So 1:00 meeting right now at the Fort Myers Beach special hurricane meeting, and then a 3:00 meeting with Lee County from their emergency response center. So lots of meetings going on here. We're also going to hear at 3:00, I believe, what the school situation is for the next few days. Did get a text from Tom at La Ola. He is closing tomorrow and Wednesday and hopes to return open on Thursday. If you own a business or know somebody that owns a business and they want to share that information with us, we are happy to pass it along to everybody that follows our page. So Ed Ryan, the editor at gmail.com is the email address, or you can just private message either Kim or I on Facebook, and we'll keep you all posted. Okay, stand by. I'm going to see if the meeting is starting and get you over to the town council meeting. Stand by.
Fellow citizens, amen.
No pledge today?
We can pledge, it's not on the agenda. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the one and only item on the agenda is the local state of emergency for Hurricane Ian. It's a resolution, and I will read the resolution, and then we'll.
You need to do public comment?
Public comment, yes, I'm sorry about that, Bill. Public comment, yes, sir.
My name is Patrick Ronco, resident of Widgeon Terrace. And I just wanted to make a couple shout outs real quick. Obviously, in the back of the building here, the sandbags in the sand and making sure residents get it. But I got to shout out to Michael Clemens first, who does Michael Clemens handiwork here. He's been going around the island for a lot of the people that can't do it and getting sandbags for them. He's been here working volunteer and doing it for free. And I just wanted to make sure, as a town resident to another town resident, that I give kudos to him for doing it. And he actually lives in San Carlos Island, but he does a lot of work here. So I wanted to shout out to Mike real quick for that, because anybody who does volunteer work like that needs to be recognized, for one. For two, I just want to say thank you guys, because I've made some reach out calls to try to get bags here for myself. I know that I've made mention to people about the organization, the way it is, the lack of bags. I had to run out a couple of times to town to see if I can get bags back and forth. And finally, I want to say thanks to Dan Ellers, who came out and brought us bags. I'm currently filling up sandbags, but I want to just make sure that we know. I thought we'd be better prepared. So thank you. A scout is always prepared.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the public comment. The next item is the local state of emergency resolution for Hurricane Ian. This is Resolution 22-34, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, proclaiming a local state of emergency and providing an effective date. Whereas Chapter 252 Florida statutes authorizes the waiver of procedures and formalities otherwise required of municipalities to take whatever prudent action is necessary to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of the community in the state in the event of a state of emergency. And whereas Florida Statute 252.38 specifically authorizes municipalities to declare a state of local emergency and to waive the procedures and formalities otherwise required of political subdivisions required by law pertaining to performance of public work and taking whatever action is necessary to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of the community, such as but not limited to entering into contracts, incurring obligations, employing permanent and temporary workers, utilizing volunteer workers, renting of equipment, acquiring and distributing supplies, materials, and facilities with or without compensation, and appropriating and expending public funds. And whereas the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, the town, is pursuant to its inherent home rule powers under Florida Constitution and otherwise, has adopted certain emergency procedures in Ordinance 18-15 and is otherwise authorized to activate the town's emergency plan. And whereas the state of Florida declared a state of local emergency due to the threat that Hurricane Ian poses to Lee County, and whereas at the time of the execution of this proclamation, the National Hurricane Center has recognized the potential danger to coastal residents of Florida from Hurricane Ian, and whereas the town has lengthy evacuation times in order to evacuate residents and others from the hazards of a hurricane, and whereas the aforesaid hurricane has the potential for causing extensive damage to public utilities, public buildings, public communication systems, public streets and roads, public drainage systems, commercial and residential buildings and areas, and whereas Ordinance 18-15 provides that where it is not possible to obtain a quorum to convene an emergency meeting to declare a state of local emergency, certain offices are authorized to declare the state of local emergency. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Town of Fort Myers Beach as follows. Section 1, the above recitals are true and correct and are hereby incorporated by reference as though fully set forth herein. Section 2, Hurricane Ian may pose a serious threat to the lives and property of the citizens of the Town of Fort Myers Beach. Accordingly, a state of local emergency is hereby declared and proclaimed within the territorial limits of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, effective in a couple of minutes after we take the vote on this date, September 2022, this 26th of September 2022. This proclamation is an emergency measure necessary for the protection of the public safety due to the proximity of Hurricane Ian. Section 4, as provided in Florida Statute 252.38, Paragraph 3, Paragraph A, and Town Ordinance 18-15, the Town Council, through the undersigned official, hereby waives the procedures and formalities otherwise required by law of a municipality. Section 5, the mandatory curfew set forth in Section 7 of Ordinance 18-15 is hereby waived, and there is no mandatory curfew imposed at this time. Section 6, the prohibition set forth in Section 7 of Ordinance 18-15 regarding the use of fresh water supplied by the county or local water company for any purpose other than cooking, drinking, or bathing is hereby waived at this time. Section 7, the town manager or designee is hereby designated as the declaring official for purposes of implementing the emergency and disaster ordinances of the town. The town manager or designee will exercise all powers necessary to protect the health and safety of the public set forth in any executive order that may be issued by the governor, as well as Chapter 252 Florida statutes. This proclamation also authorizes the town manager or designee to utilize government employees and volunteers to assist in securing private property so as to minimize the overall damage to the town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida. Section 8, the state of local emergency shall remain in effect until terminated as provided in Section 4 of Ordinance 18-15. The foregoing resolution will be adopted upon a motion by, is there a motion to approve the resolution? It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Let's fill in a time in section 2.
Right.
Shall we make it 1:15 on today's date?
Could we give just a couple of minutes? I've got some discussion, not regarding so much the motion, but the hurricane procedures themselves. There's no opportunity. I just think while we have a public audience here,
Is it
Yep.
to do with the resolution or not the resolution?
it's germane, but it's not exactly to do with.
Well,
the
let's dispatch with the resolution, then we
Okay,
can.
that's fine.
Talk for a minute. Okay, any objection to the motion? The motion carries unanimously at, actually, Vice Mayor, 1:10? That's the time. Okay. Upon a motion by Councilman Veach, seconded by the Vice Mayor, and upon putting a vote, the result was unanimous. Adopted this 26th day of September, 2022 by the Town Council of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida. Raymond P. Murphy, Mayor. Okay, that is adopted. Councilman Adderholt.
And just while we have a public meeting here, and it's an opportunity to educate folks, and there's a lot of folks who are veterans of this on the island who would know this, but just for folks who are new or who have moved here or are new to this whole process, it's been some time since we've had a serious weather event here. Roger, would you spend some time? I thought it was really nice to have a tent outside the town hall building where they're disseminating hurricane reentry passes. Obviously, you have to show proper ID. Feel free to elaborate on that, Roger. And then again, let's start at 10,000 feet and explain what these are for and why you need them and how they'll be utilized or if they'll be utilized in this event. Just give people a little bit of a thumbnail sketch of how this process works for those who have not been through it before, if you would.
Okay, be happy to do that. Okay, so the town has a hurricane pass system, and there's a pass for residents and property owners, and I believe there's a pass for a different color pass for business folks to be able to get in here. And so once the storm has passed by, there's sort of potentially a couple of levels that we could be facing. One is that the town is unsafe, and by that I mean that there are down charged power lines, there's no water or no wastewater services. And if we were to find ourselves in that situation, we basically don't want to let anybody in at that point to allow those things to be fixed as quickly as possible. So the power line disconnected and get our emergency folks in here if we have a water line break or whatever. We want to deal with that right away, or a sewer break. I don't think our infrastructure is such, like you've probably seen in pictures where, you see exposed broken pipes and some other types of disasters. But if we unfortunately had that situation, that would be one where we obviously would want to limit people coming in so we could effectuate those repairs as soon as possible. Then the second tier is we would just basically let everybody back on the island. We had minimal impacts, and there's no reason why people can't get back to their properties and resume their lives as quickly as possible if they have minor damage, to be able to address that. And then the sort of the third situation, which we hope we don't get to, is where we have sort of trying to return to everyday life, and we just have people coming here to see what happened. And that's where the passes come into play. If we have to limit people coming to the island because they just want to kind of come see what happened. They're not coming here to help someone with a repair. They don't live here. They don't work here. They're just coming here to kind of see what happened. And that's where we use the passes to differentiate those people from our residents and business owners.
And folks will be notified as to what the status is based upon our website, through local media. How do people find out?
Right. So through our website, Facebook, and local media, we would announce if we were restricting people coming onto the island.
I also saw where I think you'd commented somewhere in one of the correspondence pieces to the council that you had some advice for people with respect to debris on Estero Boulevard right after the storm. Do you want to touch a little bit about that as well? Touch on that?
Right, well, clearly Estero Boulevard is our main access road, and we want, if the storm event happens, and basically through Thursday, and then Thursday morning, don't rush back to the town at 7 o'clock in the morning. Go have a breakfast somewhere, and then come back to allow us to be sure that Estero Boulevard at the very least is open and available for traffic and safe. So, I know everyone's anxious to get back to their house and be sure it's okay, or condo, whatever it may be, but stop and have a breakfast and let us have the first couple hours in the morning to assess things and be sure everything's safe for everybody.
Is there any, just the softball here, is there anything else you want to share or you think people should know at this point since you've got a forum, Roger?
Well, unfortunately, the nature of this storm is such that we're on the eastern line of the cone as it is right now based on the latest weather advisories. So a couple of things about that. I think everyone should know by now that the cone does, the line of the storm does not go down the middle of the cone. It go anywhere from either edge of the cone. So that means if it goes to the eastern edge, we'll have significant impacts here. Obviously, if it goes to the western edge, we'd have less impacts. And in the middle, we'd have half a loaf of impacts. So please don't, say we're not in the cone, therefore we're not going to be impacted. We are going to have impacts, and particularly with a storm of this nature, I think we can handle the rainwater fine. It's really more of the wind and the storm surge that we have to be very concerned about. So, hurricane season started June 1st. Hopefully, everyone spent the time between now and then getting prepared and not waiting till today to get prepared. But we're continuing to try to help the stragglers deal with any late minute emergencies they may have, whether it's sandbags or other types of supplies. I think everyone knows that our intent is to get all of these expenses due to the state declaration of emergency and the state declaration of emergency and the county declaration of emergency and now our town declaration of emergency, that we will get reimbursed for these pre-storm activities, protective measures by the federal government, state government, and we pay somewhere between 12% share or less, which is one of the reasons why, since it's being paid for by the state and the federal government, we don't really want to turn someone away who perhaps just lives outside the boundary of Fort Myers Beach.
I would also just ask now, do you know what the county has done as far as the school, trash pickup, horticulture pickup?
Well, we've reached out to Waste Management in the county. They haven't made a decision yet, but I know they operate under the same strategy that when the wind gets up to 39 knots, which is 40, 45 miles an hour, they take their trucks off the road. So right now they haven't canceled service for Wednesday and Thursday, but in all likelihood, if the winds get that high, they'll either won't perform service or whatever. So I'm planning personally not to have recycling or waste pickup on Wednesday or Thursday, and we encourage people not to put their cans out because due to the wind, they'll just get blown around, create more problems and more things to be picked up. So,
If I could interrupt, just the Lee County has announced that they're doing basically a press conference, I guess, at 3 o'clock today, so people can tune in and get more updates then.
Right. So you're right. The county's going to have updates this afternoon, but I think the point is normally people put their trash cans out sometimes the night before or whatever. In this case, it's really better to wait till that service is being done on Wednesday or Thursday. Put it out that morning after that's been confirmed, rather than do it the night before.
Just one last question. I know how it works in Indiana with respect to the utility companies with respect to lighting and power. Is it fair to say, Roger, that if we lose power on the island, that's solely the responsibility of Florida Power and Light, and that is it, at least the way it works in Indiana in a crisis, is that they will go to the areas that can resume the most folks first, and then they'll work their way backwards from there. But as I understand it, the town has no role in that, in restoring power. Is that safe to say?
That's correct. However, we do, through the EOC, we reach out to the FP&L representative there. And our priorities within Fort Myers Beach is obviously the fire stations, Publix, the two gas stations on the island, make sure they get powered as quickly as possible. And then, of course, town hall, so we can get up and operating as quickly as possible. But that is correct. So, for example, just by way of example, if there's a pole down that's affecting your electrical service, and someone just has a wire down, and that, as you said, that wire serves more people, they're just going to fix that wire first because they can get more people online quickly than having, for example, to replace a pole.
And,
So-
and Christy, I see you, good to have you here. Is there anything you want to say to the water users or the stormwater any advice you want to give to folks before a storm since you're here? Or Roger, either one?
Well, since Christy was out in the sun doing entry passes this morning,
Christy Gorey.
let us cool off for a while in here.
Actually, no, I don't have any information from people other than my suggestion is if you're going to leave your home and evacuate, please shut off your water main. So please shut off your valve at your home. When we come back on the island and we're here immediately after the storm passes, the first thing we do is we have all of our techs and our staff. We drive around the island and we look for breaks at homes and in our mains. So if you leave the island, please shut off your water, your main valve at your home. That would prevent any leaks inside your home. If you would like, and we're here till 4:30, obviously, probably later today. And then depending on the cone of the storm, we will also come out and turn off your meter if you would like us to. I can't go out and turn off 3,200 people's meters, obviously, right this minute. But if you are leaving, the best thing to do is to shut off your house valve. And that keeps us from having a leak in your house and having to go out and shut it off for you.
I assume with all the water coming down, you're encouraging people to make sure their storm drains are open of debris, et cetera.
Yes, please. Yes, absolutely. We're going to get, if not a storm surge, we'll get rain. So, obviously the new stormwater system will work as intended. But if we have high tide, we have to remember that with high tide becomes the reality that the storm system itself cannot drain into high tide.
And as folks husband additional water supplies in preparation for a hurricane, what's your advice to people as to when they shouldn't utilize the water, drink the water, shower with the water? How does that
So,
process work?
I always like to say you have water in your faucet. That's kind of what I always say. You're going to have water short of a break in our transmission main, which is actually under the bay. So we probably won't have that issue. The only time that I'm going to issue a boil water notice, which is when it is unsafe and we want you to precautionary boil your water, is if we have a main break and we get sand or dirt in the actual main. Keep in mind that there's an adequate amount of pressure going through the main. So even if something was to open and it was to shoot water in the air, there's nothing getting in that pipe. But we will issue a boil water notice if necessary via code red.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Couple quick
With all of
questions.
that said, I don't know if Dan has a question.
I just have a
All-
couple quick questions for Corey. But
Before she goes, but all that said, everybody should make sure that they have in their house, not by turning on the tap, at least 72 hours worth of water for themselves, their family members, and whatever pets they may have. So that allows us, if we have an unfortunate situation like Christy was describing with a main or something that needs to be repaired, they have adequate water for us to do that repair.
If I could, Corey, just real quick, for those people that may not know where they could generally find the main shutoff valve to their house, could you maybe explain the most common place that they could look to shut it
It's
off?
normally right at your hose spigot.
Okay.
90% of the time, it is right on the side of your house where your hose spigot is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't want them to go out into the actual box?
I would prefer them not to, only because that's actually property of the town. So if they break something, and then we're gonna have to come out and repair it. So most homes, short of some of the really, really older homes, have a main shutoff valve, and that is right by your spigot. So if you shut that off, it's gonna shut off the water to your home. And like I said, that just prevents having some sort of leak inside your house. We can have one outside, but it keeps it safe inside.
And then this question is more of post potential flooding. Have we got any plan in place for some of the streets that we know currently flood just during normal rain for pumping out some water faster?
Absolutely. We do have a plan in place.
Okay.
So basically what we do is we have pumps on hand, and then we have emergency contractors that we have contracts with. So they will come out. The first thing obviously that we would handle is any main break. Main break would be the first thing that we would take care of. And then we're going to go street to street and check for any major flooding. If there is major flooding on some of these streets that do still have issues because they don't have the newer system, we do have pumps available, and we could pump that. With that being said, I can't pump it into the system if the system is already full. So it's just a matter of trying to get it out of people's driveways, or if it's in their house.
Thanks. Quick
Well, I
question.
want to clarify that. It's to get, if it's getting water out of people's houses. If it's on their yard or in their driveway, we're gonna call on the big, public works person in the sky to help us with that stuff. We're gonna concentrate on making sure that there isn't property damage.
Okay. And then a quick question for you, Roger. How late will people be able to come in and get their passes, those that may be coming in today or tomorrow morning to try to secure their house? How late will they be able to get those passes? Maybe Corey, you can answer this.
So we've been out since 8 this morning, and we're here till 4:30. I will have to allow Roger to answer how long he's going to want us to stay tonight, and hand out these passes.
All right, so let's tell everybody like the super big secret that people don't know. If for some reason you can't get here to get a pass, if you bring another piece of paper such as your utility bill, your tax bill, your FP&L bill that shows that you live on Fort Myers Beach, what would happen is you don't have the pass hanging from your rearview mirror. So you're not going to get waved it through. You're going to get stopped, and they're going to ask you, why are you going to the beach? Why are you going to the beach? And you can say, oh, I don't have a pass, but here's my utility bill. Here's my, something else that is fairly driver's license or some other evidence that they live on the beach, and they're going to be let through. So we will, one of the things that we have to be careful about because of our size, we have people working hard today, and we will have them working hard tomorrow, but we don't want them to be exhausted for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday when we may have a lot to do. So with that, we probably will stop giving out, passes at the end of our typical workday, 4:30. But for people who can't get here or can't get here tomorrow, I'm sure they have a piece of paper somewhere among their possessions that will show that they're a resident.
All right. Thank you.
Anything else?
I just had a quick thing that I hadn't heard mentioned for people that are new to the island. In the past, the fire department has had a policy that the fire department and EMS does leave the island. I believe it's at 45 miles per hour, sustained winds. So therefore, if you elect to stay and have a heart attack, you may not have EMS here to help you. So that's something to consider when you decide whether to evacuate or not. I'm sure the fire department will be issuing an announcement. I think it looks pretty likely that they will be leaving because I think we're going to exceed that wind speed would be my guess.
And I would just add too that, this is just because we're outside the cone doesn't mean by any means we're safe, because of the cone, from what I hear on some of the local news weather reports, there's a 2/3 chance that the core of the storm will be in the cone. So it's 1/3 it could be outside of that. And the storm is big enough, so if that core is close to us, we can give some pretty significant effects. If you live in a lower lying house, you're anywhere exposed to the beach, an older home, please have a plan. Keep yourself safe. You never quite know how these things are going to work out. I know that a lot of people who stayed during Charlie regretted it. It's not if you're in a bomb-proof new house, maybe it's okay, but if you're in an older house, be safe. Don't, even if the first responders are still here, don't put them at risk, any unnecessary risk. If you have a place to go, or make a plan. You and your pets, you can always get more stuff, but just be safe.
Roger, is that a decision the evacuation of the island, is that a decision that primarily rests with the state? Or does the town play a role in that decision? Are there thresholds that people should watch for?
Right, so the state has, and the county have predetermined what they call evacuation zones or risk zones for flooding. And based on those zones, they will say if you live in a zone XYZ, and you can look that up on the state and county website, they will give an evacuation order for those zones. I suspect that that will be part of their announcement later today, how they're going to address that. And that coincides with them opening shelters. They don't want to tell you sort of, well, you evacuate, but you have no place to go to. So they'll usually announce evacuate. And if you have no other friend or whoever you could stay with, then if you have to evacuate to a shelter, these are the shelters that are open. So I suspect that they are working in the room now with the school board to try to determine which schools will serve as shelters, to spread those out throughout the county and making those decisions. And that will be what will get announced this afternoon, probably to coincide with the afternoon update on the storm track.
Okay.
But to your point, Councilor Adderholt and Councilor Beach Point,
I guess I just wanted to make sure that people aren't calling the town as to whether to determine whether to evacuate or not, unless they should. I mean, that's what I'm trying to get clarification.
yeah, and I appreciate that very much. Just, I'll say this. My first hurricane was in 1979, Hurricane David. It was Labor Day that I worked professionally. So I could tell you I've been through a whole bunch of these things, and the most riskiest thing is for people to get complacent and not take that extra step of precaution, like Councilor Veach was saying, and saying, well, maybe here, maybe there. Don't take a chance. It's not worth your life. It's not worth getting hurt. It's not worth putting others at risk. The safest thing to do is, when you live in an island community, be prepared to be staying with somebody else off island if possible.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just conclude before we knock off here that reiterate the councilman's comments. Everybody, please be safe. Don't do your preparations, but don't hurt yourself in your preparations. And when the order comes, please heed the order. Okay. Is there anything else before we adjourn? If not, we will adjourn. And
Move
it's
to adjourn.
okay.
Second.
Moved, seconded. In discussion, any objection, we are adjourned at 1:32.
All right, everybody, we are going to bring you the 3:00 meeting that the county holds. And 5 minutes ago, the school announced that they're closing tomorrow and Wednesday, and the decision for the rest of the week will be made at 5:00 on Wednesday. And that was, if you log on to the Fort Myers Beach Elementary PTO, you'll be able to see.
This is Forrester, and the time to say goodbye is here. The So Long Summer Sale is on at Subaru of Fort Myers. We're out to be your number
We
one
will be back
dealership.
at 3:00 today, so you can see what the county is up to. They're going to hold a press conference there and give an update from the county level. So that's about 90 minutes from now. And just again, you see on the screen there, the schools are closed tomorrow and Wednesday in anticipation of Hurricane Ian. So stay safe, everybody, and get all your supplies ready and get your battery operated radio out. Charge all your phones, charge your batteries up. We'll keep you informed right here on the Facebook. See you in 90 minutes.